Well, Canada's entrepreneurial landscape is centered around specific hubs across the country. Northern Canada seems to get less of the spotlight when it comes to business and innovation. Our next guest says stronger national partnerships are needed to connect northern entrepreneurs with mentors, investors, and more in order to bridge the gap in the north. For more, we are joined by Erin Scott, Director of Entrepreneurial Programming at Yukon Struct Society. Erin, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on this morning.
Let's talk a little bit about what you're hoping to accomplish with your Yukon Struct Society.
Yeah, of course. So Yukon Struct is the first innovation hub north of 60. So we have three pillars: meet, make, and grow. We operate a co-working space and a maker space, and I oversee our entrepreneurial supports, programs, and services. And ultimately, our goal is to ensure that Yukoners throughout the territory are able to access the support that they need to not only start their business, but help grow their business outside of the territory. So we try to make our programming as accessible throughout our most rural communities, as well as Whitehorse, to ensure that folks are able to really know the foundations of building a sustainable business that will be able to have a really great community impact.
And what are some of the challenges you face right now trying to bring these folks together and make connections with mentors and others?
Yes, so I think it is just based on our geographic location. We are quite isolated in comparison to most other innovation hubs throughout Canada. So one of the things we struggle with the most is really accessing, certain expertise and certain sector knowledge. Our territory has an incredible amount of talent and knowledge within itself, but when we're working with folks who are, specific in specific niches, it's really important that we connect them with previous founders or executives that are able to help kind of guide them through building a business with that knowledge of that sector in particular. So we try to access other industry knowledge throughout Canada and not just limit it to the territory to help build these folks up in the right way.
What are the industries that are sort of better lend themselves to be domiciled in the north? I'm assuming it's mostly service industries.
Yes, it is mostly service industries, but we are seeing a growth in a couple different areas. Food and beverage has been one that has been growing year over year, and it's been incredible to see. We're seeing more agri-food processing within the north, which is fantastic. So we're trying to really support that. We're also seeing a growth in more tech businesses. Based on our population size, it's smaller in comparison to other jurisdictions. However, it's quite big for us, and we're seeing tremendous success with a few companies that are coming out of the Yukon. So we're looking to support those industries a little bit more.
And now you say they're smaller, but in reality, I mean, with connectivity, it's one big group across the country if you really want it to be.
Very true. Yes. And that's one of the things we try to drive home a little bit more is that when we look at innovation hubs across Canada, the North is often excluded. So we want to be a part of those conversations a little bit more to ensure that the entrepreneurs we're working with who are coming, into the tech space are able to connect and collaborate with other jurisdictions.
And what kind of response are you getting from south of 60, I guess, as the case may be?
Yes, so it's actually been quite positive so far. I think everyone's always excited when they hear, someone from the Yukon wants to chat and learn about what they're doing and the different, pain points or challenges that entrepreneurs might deal with up here versus elsewhere in Canada. So the response has been fairly positive so far, which is very exciting for us.
And what are some of the things that excite you right now? What are some of the projects you've seen start to build, maybe, or grow or bud?
Yes, of course. So we actually have seen a couple different projects that are coming out. Obviously, so AI is a big driver across the country, but folks who were utilizing AI here are specifically utilizing it for community pain points that they might have experienced. We have an entrepreneur who's working using AI to help detect wildlife migration patterns. We recently had another entrepreneur who was helping kind of reduce the burden of administrative tasks with healthcare, so increasing and streamlining communication between healthcare providers. And we have a number of other companies that are working on some really cool things that are up and coming that we're excited to share with the rest of the country.
And what are some of the unique skill sets that people bring from up north?
I think one of the most unique skill sets that I've seen during my time in this position is that folks are always have community at top of mind. So when they're building in the initial and early planning stages of their business, they are always planning with community in mind. So how can they contribute back and provide back to their community? And that's a core component of their business model. And that we've seen tremendous results with, because they really are thinking of the bigger picture, more than just, what the profit or the revenue will be from this business, but how will this impact folks directly, and how will it impact their colleagues, their fellow peers. And that's something that I think is really important to continue to promote and support for these entrepreneurs, because they're paying it forward consistently.
And it sounds like that's a bit of a challenge as well, to get them to think beyond the community and scale it up.
Yes, it definitely is. It's a great market to be able to saturate in the Yukon, but one of the things that we often do try to work with our entrepreneurs on is how can they scale beyond the Yukon, and how can they introduce their solutions or their products or their services to other areas of Canada. It's something that we've seen, growth in over the past few years. And because of a few champion entrepreneurs who have kind of taken that plunge to explore exporting elsewhere, or starting to, offer their services or their technologies in new markets, it's hopefully going to create a bit more of a domino effect for our other entrepreneurs who are at the earlier stages, that they're looking at the scalability of their business from the beginning.
And what would you we're almost out of time, but what would you tell someone who's looking up north and thinking about it? What would you tell them to draw them up there?
I think it's the work-life balance is tremendous, and that's why we have folks stay here, but it's also the community. The community is incredibly impactful. Entrepreneurs are massive champions for one another, and I think the collaboration there, we've seen tremendous results and incredible returns on that. But it really is the community is the core of the territory, and that I think is the driver and the reason why folks decide to build and stay up here.
Okay. Erin, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Erin Scott is the Director of Entrepreneurial Programming at the Yukon Struct Society.